Developments come. In the meantime, I want to switch gears. President Trump hosting members of the video game industry and some of their most vocal critics to debate the possible link between gun violence and graphic video games in an effort, of course, to find solutions. This in the aftermath of the most recent horrific school massacre. President Trump has vowed to take decisive action against gun violence, including so far banning bump stocks, possibly raising the firearm purchasing age to 21. With me now, Brent Bozell, Media Research Center president, also an attendee at the Video Game Summit. Brent, thank you so much for joining us. Take us inside the room, please.
Well, I think the president is genuinely concerned about this outbreak of violence in our schools. He ran this meeting. He called for this meeting. He brought in a diverse group of people. He asked an awful lot of questions, probing questions, and he was looking for proposed solutions. So for anyone who put forward a position, he would ask for a solution. And he was listening very, very intently for the entire hour. I think I can speak for everybody in that room that folks were impressed by him.
I know they had to be impressed, but the video game industry themselves, I know some of the biggest makers of the games didn't even send a representative. There was an industry rep there. In the past, they have said that their games have nothing to do with this sort of violence. They've said, hey, look, we sell these games around the world. It only seems to happen in America, so there's no correlation. Were they defiant today, or did they at least acknowledge maybe there's things they can do?
Well, there was a little bit of that. But see, the problem is that the video industry is walking with a walking, talking contradiction. On the one hand, they say just what you said. There is no cause or no effect. On the other hand, they then say that this has got to be kept from children, and they're doing their level best to do so. If there's no cause and effect, why keep it from children? Why not give it to children? There is cause and effect. Look, you've got a situation. I don't suggest for a moment that if you watch a video game, you're going to commit an act of violence. I mean, that's preposterous.
Right.
But look at Jonesboro. Look at Columbine. Look at Newton. Look in Norway. Look at several other places where you had these awful outbreaks of horrific violence. And in one case after another, these kids were hooked on violent video games. If you look at the violent video, Charles, I promise you, if you saw some of the violence that we saw today on some of these games, you wouldn't allow it on your network. Wow. But why then are millions of children watching it? So I think the industry can and should do more to police to get this out of the hands of children.
Brent Bozell, thank you very, very much. We really appreciate it. And got to have you on more often. Thank you.
Thank you, Charles.
Now I want to bring in Kirsten Hagelin. She's a conservative commentator, and Katie Frates, Olympic Media Managing Editor, also Daily Caller Editor. Katie, you've been tweeting and talking about this summit all week long. What are your thoughts about this?
My thoughts right now is that Brent Bozell is either profoundly ignorant on this topic or willfully lying to Americans. And actually, Charles, I would like to correct the record with you. You said that major gaming companies did not send any representatives. It's actually because they didn't know about this when it was first announced last week by Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders. Not even the ESA knew that this was happening. And actually, we don't know who in the White House greenlit this in the first place. So it was a confusion at the beginning. So I'd just like to clear the air on that. But on top of this, there are study after study to show no causal link between violent video games and real-life violence. There was a study in January of 2018. There's no reduction in empathy. It does not prime people. It has absolutely nothing to do with the tragedy in Florida. And to try and say that we're going to get any solutions to school violence from targeting video games is absolutely incorrect.
Kirsten, let me ask you, because I know the role-playing games, RPGs, these role-playing games have been credited for the destruction of family structure, not just in America, but in Japan, where they had the phenomena of, they call the grass eaters, young men who just sit in the basement, they play games all night, sleep all day, they don't have girlfriends, I mean, it's just really, it's something. People are saying there is some sort of a societal impact.
Well, absolutely. And of course, no one factor causes someone to take a gun, an AR-15, and go shoot up a school, right? It's an enormity of factors that need to be addressed here. So Katie's right in that regard. However, we have to be so careful about the way that we objectify other human beings. And essentially, when you get into this role-playing game and you are the shooter or you are the aggressor, it has been shown to increase of behavior. To what extent that is different for each person. But also, it puts you in a situation where you the virtual reality of the game, it takes you outside of the real world. And so it's a hard way to define or to cause a difference between what you see in real life and what you see in a video game. And those lines are being crossed. And we have to be very aware with the increase of artificial intelligence and virtual reality, that line is going to get even blurrier. So we have to be aware as a society.
Ladies, thank you both very much. We'll see you.